In today's chess video, I'll be showing you the one opening that helped me go from unrated to a national master in the span of 3 years. I'll be teaching you how you too can play this opening, and the tips and tricks that go along with it. In today's video, I also have a very cool tactic that you guys can play against your unsuspecting opponents that will make people think that you could be the next chess god. Let's get straight into it. Imagine there was an opening that was not only easy to play, hard for your opponent to defend against, and extremely easy to win with. Wouldn't that be too good to be true? Well, in today's chess video, as I said earlier, we're going to be learning an opening that I learned that helped me go from unrated to a national master in the span of 3 years, and how you too can become this opening enjoyer. Now, what is the opening in question? It's the Kali Zukertort. Now, one of the benefits of this opening is that it really does not matter what your opponent does. There's really only 3 main variations you need to learn, but in today's variation, we're going to be learning the most basic mainline variation. And the idea here is after pawn d4, and again, it really doesn't matter what our opponent plays, we're going to play pawn to d5. Let's just say he plays pawn to d5. Instead of the c4 queen's gambit that a lot of grandmasters like to play, we're going to play a much easier variation here, which is just a simple knight to f3. It doesn't really matter what our opponent does here. Let's say he plays knight f6, he just copies us. We're going to play pawn e3, and after our opponent plays pawn e6, we're going to play bishop d3. This is the first step into the Kali system. You need to get your bishop to d3, get your knight on f3, and in this position, we're just going to slowly develop our pieces in a way that is basically unstoppable for our opponent to do. So let's just say our opponent plays knight d7. Again, it really doesn't matter what he plays. That's the best thing about this opening. You don't need to memorize lines like the Rai Lopez or, God forbid, the Sicilian defense. These are openings that are super complicated to learn, and as if a beginner tries to play them, I would get confused playing these openings. But when you play the Kali Zukertort, you can get the opening out of your mind, and you can play a very strong middle game where you have an extremely strong attack that is extremely hard for your opponent to stop. So after knight to d7, it's our move as white, and now we play the Kali Zukertort, not the Kali system. The Kali system is pawn c3, but that is a very boring drawish variation that we do not want to go for. Instead, what we're going to play for is pawn to b3. And the idea here is we're going to fianchetto the bishop. And as you guys can see, after bishop e7, bishop b2, all our bishops are aiming onto this Kingside over here. We're going to have all our pieces aiming there, and it's going to be really hard for our opponent to actually defend once we get all our pieces into the game. This is an opening that helped me improve my positional skills a lot, as it taught me a lot of important things when it comes to positional chess and also attacking chess all at the same time, as it taught me to bring in more pieces when I want to attack the opponent. And so in this position, let's just say he castles. Again, it does not really matter what he plays. And in this position, we're going to play knight d2. Our opponent plays pawn to c6, let's just say, looking for like a Slav defense. And in this position, this is where the Kali begins, where Kali Zukertort begins, where you castle, and you're going to play knight e5, with the idea of you're going to bring in the pieces one by one. A lot of people here don't know what to do, and they just play something like pawn b6, just trying to fianchetto their bishop. But this is a move that's extremely slow, well, I wouldn't say it's not good, but it just doesn't do very much, and allows us to play moves like pawn f4, and again, this is a system, which means you could play this against whatever your opponent plays. So let's say they play bishop b7, and we play a move like queen to f3. The idea, as I keep mentioning, is you're going to bring in more and more pieces onto the Kingside, and extremely hard for your opponent to set up a defense against what you're going to be trying to do against them. Now, after queen f3, it's your opponent's turn here, and, well, they can probably see that an attack is coming, but how do you stop an attack like this? So, maybe our opponent might try to go for pawn c5 in this position, trying to go for the queenside attack. But this c5 move just doesn't really do much. Queenside attacks are generally not as effective as a kingside attack. And now we can play a move like queen h3, and our idea here is that we're aiming our pieces onto these weaknesses, onto these weak points, and if this attack doesn't succeed right now, let's say he plays pawn to h6 or something, in these positions we have very easy plans that can help us gain an advantage. We can just bring in more pieces with moves like rook f3, rook g3 if you love rook lifts. You can play moves like g4, g5 if you love pawn storms. And if you love your knights a lot, you could even try to move your knight to g5. There's so many things that you guys can do in these positions that are actually so strong. And the best thing is it's so easy for you to play, but hard for your opponent to play. And I once saw a game by Botnovic, I believe, one of the previous world champions, where he played this system actually against another grandmaster. And in this position, I have a very cool tactic for you guys to show you. And again, this is where the Kali Zukertort shines, because not only is it a positional game, it's also an aggressive game all at the same time, where the opponent decide to play something like bishop d6, and this move is a complete blunder. And this is one of the very cool tactics you guys can do in your own games that I want you guys to think about. So I'm gonna give you guys a minute. I know this is an opening guide, but let's just try to practice our tactics for a second. So pause your videos. I'm going to tell you guys the answers right away. So make sure you pause it. Make sure you try to figure it out. And so the answer is knight takes d7, exclam, trading off one of our most powerful knights for a knight that doesn't seem like it does much. Now you might be asking, why would you do this? Well, the idea here is that the knight can't capture, obviously, because queen takes h7 is mate. That would be not great for our opponent. But after queen takes, we have this very cool sniper bishop. Because after pawn captures, and let's just say he captures back so he doesn't lose his bishop, we have bishop takes knight, and this is game over. Because if they capture here, we got the mate on h7. And if they play something like pawn g6, we have queen h6. Not only are we up a piece, but it's an unstoppable mate for us. So again, if we were to go over this opening again, the idea first is you go for this setup over here. This is the first step. Very hard for your opponent to stop. In fact, it's kind of impossible for your opponent to stop. And after that, after this bishop d3 move, you're just going to move your knight out. You're going to play pawn b3, bishop b2, knight. It doesn't matter what your opponent plays. We're going to play knight e5, b6, castle, and eventually we're going to play f4. And this is the beginning of the Kali Zukertort. And this is an opening that I could say was the opening that helped me get my title, as there was very few games where I lost. I think I can only remember one game I lost. And I recall deeply when I was like 1600, I wanted to play an opening that would help me draw against another title national master at the time. And guess what? I played this opening for the first time ever. I drew a national master with this opening. And it was amazing. It was a good memory for me. And another time I drew a FIDE master with this game. And I've won many other games against titled players, against non-titled players, and this was the opening that helped me do it. So make sure to let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed this opening, if you want to see more variations, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.